Hey guys, Jangles here. In this video, I'll be explaining how to win the difficult spellcleave of Shadow Priest Boomkin while playing Windwalker DK. High damage spellcleaves can be quite the task for the average Windwalker DK to overcome. With the tips and guidance from this video, hopefully you can be well on your way to victory the next time you meet this composition. Firstly, let's discuss which talents to pick against this matchup. A talent which is commonly overlooked and not picked often is Adaptation. Adaptation breaks crowd control that is 5 seconds or longer and is only a 60-second cooldown, which is half the cooldown of Gladiator Medallion. Adaptation is a great choice against Boomkin SP because Adaptation will force the Boomkin to cast Cyclone more often. Cyclone also shares DR returns with Mind Control, which means that if the Boomy is spam cycloning you, or if the Priest is spam mind controlling you, you won't be suffering as much CC throughout the game. This will synergize with your choice of Dark Simulacrum, which when used correctly will allow you to copy a Cyclone and use it on the enemy team to further your own pressure. The Boomkin will look to land more Cyclones on your team since you're playing with Adaptation. This allows you to steal more Cyclones with Dark Sim and use those Cyclones to prolong a CC chain. In the opener, the enemy team will spread out and start casting straight away to get their dots up. Your goal is to run towards the Priest straight away and do a setup as fast as you can to start forcing cooldowns. The Priest and the Boomkin will try to stop your opener with CC, so try to steal a Cyclone with Dark Sim as fast as you can to put CC on the enemy healer. After the opener, your team should focus interrupts on the Priest to take less damage. You won't be kicking Cyclones since your goal is to steal as much Cyclones as you can to use for CC. Repeat this process by forcing cooldowns and stopping as much damage, and you will eventually win the game. In this clip, the Shadow Priest mind controls me to force my adaptation, which means the next CC on me will be DR'd. I grip the Boomkin on top of the Priest, and my monk lands a double leg sweep, which forces both DPS to use their trinkets. My healer rolls over towards the enemy healer and lands a full paralyze, followed up by his leg sweep. I get Cyclone, but since the Priest got my adaptation with the mind control, the Cyclone is DR'd, and we managed to force the dispersion from the Priest. By doing a strong and aggressive opener, we managed to force 2 trinkets and dispersion from the Priest. After this, we can stop as much damage as we can until Grip comes off cooldown to do another setup. In this matchup, the aim is to play aggressive while stopping as much damage as you can. Most of the time the enemy healer will be playing Vim and Vigor, giving him a 20% healing increase while his health is above 80%. You will have to ignore this, because if you do go for the healer to try and get rid of Vim and Vigor, your team will either sit a lot of CC or die from taking too much damage. Your focus should be to stop as much damage and CC as you can while keeping up your pressure on the DPS. This way your team can stay offensive and avoid having to line of sight behind the pillar. The only way to win this matchup is by having constant pressure on the enemy team, so just stand in the middle and hope for the best. Try not to line of sight as the enemy team will recover their own defensives. You should grip the Boomkin on top of the Priest every time it is available. Your team should aim to stop the Priest from getting Vampiric Touch up. You do this with either stunning him or interrupting him. Your healer can then CC the enemy healer, or you can use the Cyclones that you will steal from Dark Simulacrum. In this clip, Grip comes off cooldown and my monk lands a paralyze on the Boomkin. After the paralyze ends, I grip the Boomkin in, and my monk lands a double fist of fury stun on the DPS. I use Asphyxiate to stun the shaman after. My healer follows up with a paralyze on the shaman, and the Priest uses Void Shift on the Boomkin. After the shaman leaves CC, he uses Ascendance to quickly top his team. Your setup should look like this to force a lot of cooldowns. By stealing Cyclone, you can prolong the CC chain on the healer by cycloning him after a stun or a paralyze. In this clip, my healer lands a paralyze on the shaman, I grip the Boomkin on top of the Priest, and my monk lands a double leg sweep. Followed up by a double fist of fury stun, which forces the shaman to drop his Spirit Link totem. Eventually the enemy team will run out of cooldowns and you will score a kill as long as you can survive and stop as much damage as possible. The Boomkin will realise that you're playing with Dark Simulacrum and start faking Cyclone or not Cyclone at all. Try and look at your Dark Simulacrum as a kick. Experienced people will try to fake cast, so be aware of this and steal it either at the last moment or let them fake a couple of times before using it. This way you play mind games with the Druid and either he will not cast Cyclone at all and you won't have to deal with it, or you steal the Cyclone and you can set up a CC chain with it. In this clip I get mind control, but I end up stealing a Cyclone with Dark Sim. My monk lands a paralyze on the Boomkin, and I Cyclone the Shaman. My monk stuns the priest, and this forces his dispersion. Meanwhile my healer lands a paralyze on the enemy healer, and the Boomkin starts casting Cyclone again, but since I can't steal this one, I kick it instead. I stun the healer with Asphyxiate after the paralyze. The Boomkin starts cycloning again and I press Dark Simulacrum and end up stealing the clone. I move towards the Shaman and kick him on his cast, followed up by the Cyclone. My monk lands a paralyze on the Boomkin and the Shadow Priest dies. The perfect time to use Dark Simulacrum is when the Priest is low on health and the Boomkin is forced to peel for his team. Either he starts fake casting Cyclone, which means your team can keep the pressure up, or you steal the Cyclone to secure the game like in this last clip. Even though your focus against this matchup is to lock down as much damage as possible, your team will still be under pressure, which means that your team will have to rotate cooldowns to survive when healing cooldowns like Wave the Crane or Avenging Crusader are on cooldown. Communicate with your team on what cooldowns are available, and call out when you see the enemy team has a lot of damage incoming, for example with Full Moon from the Boomkin. You can either use a personal cooldown, or let your partners use a cooldown for you depending on the situation. In this clip, the Moonkin is casting Full Moon, and I use my AMS to avoid taking any damage from it. In this clip, the Moonkin has Incarnation up and lands a Full Moon on me. My healer also gets silenced, but manages to get the Life Cocoon off before I die. The Boomkin tries to Cyclone me on Life Cocoon, but since I'm playing with adaptation, he forces my adaptation instead, and I live through this setup. That's going to be it for this guide, guys. Please leave a plus skill if you enjoyed, and let me know what you think in the comments. I'll see you guys next time.